Welcome back to Beyond Wisdom, where we explore timeless truths for a more peaceful and meaningful life. We live in a time where identity feels fragile. We chase self-definition through careers, personality tests, even social media bios. But the deeper question, who am I really, has haunted humanity for thousands of years. And long before modern psychology or individualism, ancient civilizations had their own profound answers. Today we'll explore how they saw the self and what their wisdom reveals about our true nature. In many ancient traditions, the idea of a separate, isolated self would have made little sense. In early African philosophies, like Ubuntu, a person was seen not as an individual first, but as a part of a whole. I am because we are. That phrase captures it well. Identity was woven into the community, the tribe, the land. You were not defined by your thoughts or your preferences, but by your relationships. A kind farmer, a loyal daughter, a trustworthy elder. Identity emerged through roles, not egos. Contrast that with today, where we often ask, who am I, in private, solitary spaces. The ancients might gently remind us, you are who you are with. You are revealed in the way you treat others, not just in what you believe about yourself. Maybe we lose something when we define ourselves only by our minds and forget the soul that lives in connection. In ancient India, the sages of the Upanishads asked the same question, who am I? But instead of arriving at a label, they stripped everything away. You are not the body. You are not the mind. You are not your memories. Beneath all those layers, they said, lies the Atman, the witnessing presence that watches it all. But even the Atman was not static. The self, they believed, was part of a vast river, changing, flowing, never fixed. In the West, Heraclitus, a Greek philosopher, said something similar. You cannot step into the same river twice, because both you and the river have already changed. These views challenge the modern obsession with discovering a single permanent identity. Maybe the real self isn't something you find once, but something you keep meeting over and over as life moves through you. The Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, had little interest in what others thought of them. They believed your true self wasn't what people saw. It was the part of you that chooses right action, even when no one is watching. Character, not charisma, was the anchor of the self. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, be indifferent to what makes no difference. Fame, praise, criticism, none of it defined the self. Only your virtue did. This idea is quietly radical in our world of curated profiles and external validation. The ancients would say, strip all that away. Who are you when the world stops watching? That's the self you cultivate. That's the self that lasts. Many indigenous cultures around the world understood the self, not just in human terms, but in relation to the earth. In the traditions of Native American nations, the self was not separate from the land, animals, or seasons. A person was a thread in a larger web of life, responsible to the past, to the future, and to the spirits of the land. This expanded self stands in contrast to the modern idea that nature is something out there, scenery for our lives. But the ancients would say, you're the forest, you're the wind. Your identity includes the sunrise and the soil. When we see ourselves as part of this greater whole, we may begin to live with more reverence, not just for the earth, but for our own lives. In ancient Chinese thought, particularly Daoism, the self wasn't something you defined or achieved. It was something you lived. Laozi, the legendary author of the Tao Te Ching, spoke of aligning with the natural way, the Tao. He didn't ask, "Who am I?" the way we do today. Instead, he asked, "Am I in harmony with the flow of life?" In this view, trying too hard to define yourself actually pulls you away from your true self. The more you try to force it, the less you live it. The authentic self is like water, soft, adaptable, strong in its humility. In the end, the Daoist self is not a project, but a way of being, fluid, grounded, and quietly alive. In ancient Egypt, the soul was not one thing. It was many. The Ka, the Ba, the Ren, the Sheut. Each aspect of the self had a role in life and the afterlife. Some parts carried your essence. Others were tied to your name, your shadow, your vitality. The Egyptians believed that to truly know who you were, you had to care for all parts of the soul, through ritual, remembrance, and right living. Their view reminds us that the self is layered and mysterious. It cannot be captured in a sentence or a label. Sometimes, the wisest thing we can do is to honor the mystery rather than rush to define it. We are not puzzles to be solved. We are stories still unfolding. In early Christian mysticism, and in the Sufi branch of Islam, the self was seen as something that belonged ultimately to the divine. The ego, the part of us that seeks control, fame, and separation, was considered a veil. The true self was the one that remembered its source. The 13th century poet Rumi wrote, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." His words echo the older truth. Yourself is not a private possession. It is a reflection of something eternal. You are not alone in your being. You are part of something sacred, shared, and alive. So, who are you really? The ancients would smile gently at the question, because you are not a static object waiting to be defined. You are not a brand, or a title, or a story with a clean beginning and end. You are relationship. You are change. You are character, breath, mystery, and dust. In a world obsessed with identity, it may be the most ancient answer of all that frees us. You are not a thing to be found. You are a life to be lived. How has your sense of self changed over time? And what parts of you still feel the most true? Share your reflections in the comments. Thanks for watching. If this video brought you value, subscribe to Beyond Wisdom. Until next time, stay calm, stay strong, and stay wise.